Okay, folks, well, it's a little bit after 12:06, so why don't we go ahead and start the meeting? We've got a great guest with us today, so we don't want to keep her waiting too long. So if we can start, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way tests. Thanks for the flag, Mac. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mac, do you want to put the four-way test up? Perfect.
It up?
No,
No. Hang on.
we all have it known by memory, or at least maybe we have it hanging on our wall or in front of us, so we can just recite the test that way. Okay.
This might help.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So we live our lives by the Rotary four-way test because number one,
Is it the truth?
it's the truth. Number two,
Is
is
it
it fair to all concerned? Number three, will build goodwill and better friendships. And finally, number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Well, thanks everybody for taking time for their lunch today and joining the group here. It's nice we still have a small group of folks. It's such a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh, so I can imagine a lot of folks are out enjoying the weather. Just wanted to do a couple of quick announcements here. Gary, did you want to give us a plug on the Walk for Water, please?
Sure do. Just a reminder that we're doing a Walk for Water event on Saturday, March 20th, 10 a.m. at Adams Community Park. Would love to have all of you walking, and as many of you can help out with some things, we appreciate that too. And if you can't make it in person, we will have arranged that you can also do it virtually. You could walk at your own home if you need to, or in your own neighborhood. But the purpose is to highlight the needs of people for clean water around the world. So hope you can participate. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. Joe, did you have any announcements for today?
Yes, sir, President Jim. I was happy to get the message from you just yesterday that we've moved forward again in another part of Richmar's history in its generosity to the Rotary Foundation, because we have a Paul Harris +2 today to announce. And I am happy to see that person's right here with us today. Give a hand to Larry Bracco, Paul Harris Fellow +2. Thanks, Larry.
Great job.
And no.
Larry, did you have anything to say? Would you like to share?
Myself. There you go. Hey, thanks for checking on that. I know Gary and I went back and forth, but I'm glad you followed through with that and checked on it. Much appreciated.
Sure. Well, thanks for your ongoing support, Larry. We really appreciate it. Okay, any other announcements for the good of the club? Okay, excellent. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Lord. Mary's going to introduce our guests this afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you, Jim. Melanie Capinos is from Heifer International. And so what happened was I'm the international chair this year, and I saw that we give $1,000 to Heifer every year. And I was like, who are they? I've been in the club for 5 years and I wasn't aware. Older members told me I'm clueless. And so I reached out to Melanie and asked if she'd give us a presentation, and here she is. And so, yeah, Melanie, if you would tell us about your program.
My pleasure. I will introduce myself real quick and then I'll share a PowerPoint with the group. If I could quickly confirm the amount of time that I have so that I'm on the same page, just if that's okay, Mary.
Jim, what do you say? 20 minutes, half hour?
Yeah, half hour, if that fits what you've put together, that works for us.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Thank you for that introduction, Mary. I'm a donor relationship manager for Heifer International, and with a professional interest in where social justice intersects with building personal relationships with donors or groups like yourself. And I personally appreciate Heifer's work because of the scale that Heifer is working at, but with a serious, shall I say, just keeping sustainability at the forefront of all of its programs. I live in Northern Virginia with my husband and my 2 kids and our golden doodle, but I'm really familiar with your area too. I was explaining to a couple of the folks on the call that I went to school outside of Pittsburgh. So a lot of my friends are from the Pittsburgh area too. So let me share my...
Which school?
I went to St. Francis University for my graduate degree.
Great.
And in other Heifer fun facts of the day, Heifer is working on a partnership with Heinz. So that's just another fun fact. I like to start, for people who might not know anything about Heifer, a little bit about our history. We are over 76 years old now, and the gentleman on the screen, his name is Dan West, and he is our founding father. He was volunteering his time after the Spanish Civil War, and he was handing out cups of milk to children and families in Europe. And he coined the term not a cup, but a cow, because he really understood that what those families and communities needed was access to the cow so that they could have ongoing milk and not just being given cups of milk. So he went back to his friends and family, and as well as his church community. Our roots are with the Church of the Brethren. We are no longer religiously affiliated, but that is where we got our start. And they began to ship entire cows across the ocean. We had our first shipment in 1944 to Puerto Rico. The folks who helped move the cows, or the heifers, were called seagoing cowboys. And there's a whole fascinating history with that. But you'll see as the presentation moves on, we've come a long way since our seafaring cowboys, but that is how we began. And I like to give proper due to Dan West. Also, if I talk too quick, or if you folks would like to ask questions, please don't hesitate. I do like to leave some questions at the time, at the end, for questions as well. Heifer really thinks that people deserve a hand up. And so despite the progress that has been made over time to end hunger and poverty, globally, there's still a lot of people living in poverty. And the numbers that I have do not even reflect how COVID has impacted people across the world. In 2015, 10% of the world's population was living under $2 a day, or about $1.90 a day. And that is about 1.1 billion fewer people than were living in poverty in 1990. So there has been pretty substantial progress, and Heifer does think that ending extreme poverty is within our reach, but it's far from over. COVID has complicated the situation as food chains were hurt last March, and really brought to light so many imbalances and inequities in the system. So our mission since the start has been to end hunger and poverty while caring for the earth. And we do this by providing livestock and environmentally sound agricultural training to improve the lives of those who struggle for reliable sources of food and income. Heifer today is working in 21 different countries around the globe. That is including the United States. We do some really great cooperative work out of Arkansas, which is where Heifer is headquartered, in Little Rock. And we are working to help families and communities become self-reliant, our goal is to help families achieve a living income, which is going to help them to secure healthy meals, educate boys and girls equally, and to have proper housing, access to clean water, hygiene, and other essential resources. So I do think we have a lot in common with the Rotary, and definitely shared value system too. So I'm grateful for the invitation, Mary. This here in 2015, excuse me, the United Nations created a blueprint, shall we say, for peace and prosperity for both people and the planet. And they announced what are called the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And Heifer has aligned its work with this list of sustainable development goals, specifically these 10. And we really do see our work as part of this bigger picture in achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The words are a little bit small sometimes. So no poverty, no hunger, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, decent work and economic growth, reduced inequalities, climate action, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and of course, partnerships. We don't think that we can solve the problem of poverty all on our own, and I think that that's one of the main reasons we've aligned with the UN's work as well. Our goal, we've got under 10 years now to reach this hefty goal of bringing another 10 million families to a living income. And we're really increasing our attention on supporting the very poorest of the poor and working in parts of the world where poverty is the highest. So our strategy is focusing on these 3 areas of scale, permanence of impact, and partnerships. So by scale, I'm talking about producing in bulk. By permanence of impact, we want businesses to continue to work at scale and then be able to continue providing jobs and incomes for local people long after Heifer might have left that area. Partnerships with local national governments as well as the private sector. Heifer make sure that all of those parties are involved so that all of the actors are committed and supportive, if you will, to any of the projects that we have going on in our 21 countries. I had mentioned more than just a paycheck. So we're looking for a living income, and that is so that we can find or help build resilience, meaning that people, houses, and entire communities have the ability to adapt, to recover from social, economic, and environmental shocks and stressors such as COVID. We've done a really great webinar series between the Heifer CEO, it began maybe this past May, to present, and he's interviewed some of our country directors as well as other people in the agricultural field. And something that's impressed me is the way that Heifer has been able to really adapt with COVID. One example would be in Ecuador. Heifer Ecuador actually began one of the very first food delivery systems in Ecuador. And then the Ecuadorian government went to Heifer and asked how we got it going. So really being a leader in this area of resilience where we're working. We do have staff all over the world because when we are defining what living income is, we know that that is going to vary obviously from country to country. So that's important too. The formula that we use for this living income is covering all of the different items that you see on this page. We think that all of these things are attributes to a decent standard of life. And a question I love to ask the audience at this point to think about either during the presentation or afterwards is just reflect on what does a decent life look to you. I think we all realize it's far from that $2 a day, but it really also has to do with connection and access to technology so that we can stay in touch with our family and friends. Decent housing, all of these things are so important. So we do take, like I said, take all of these pieces into the equation of living income. Stewards of the land. I always include this because, and go back to our mission being, we want to end hunger and poverty while caring for the earth. We can't do it without that second part of our mission. And we really do see our work as part of the bigger picture in achieving those sustainable development goals by 2030, when we are paying really close attention to the agriculture. We think that everything begins with holistic agriculture and investing in people and communities while teaching them effective tools that will help them to care for the climate. Heifer is really good at maybe bringing people to a living income while producing goods that might be hard to produce in certain places. I'm thinking of specific spices. There is an item called vetiver in Haiti that Heifer has helped to grow. It's a really desolate land, but this particular item called vetiver grows really well in Haiti and actually sells for a pretty good amount because it's used in perfumes and cologne. And so helping people to access and use the land in the best way possible. Elaborating on that idea a little bit more, we are promoting agroecology by working with farmers to protect local ecosystems and biodiversity. We are employing specific soil and water conservation techniques and reducing our carbon footprint wherever we can. So I'll name 3 keys to our success, and you folks are doing a water walk. Our CEO is really dedicated to clean water. So that's number 1. The second would be climate smart practices. Third, renewable energy sources is another thing that Heifer is very serious about. And we participate in both solar and biogas sources of energy wherever we can. And this allows people to get more work done as well. Some quick facts about Heifer's work over time. Like I said, we were started in 1944. So we're over 76 years old now, and I'm quite proud of that. We are working in those 21 countries, provided 36.9 million families with the ability to lift themselves out of poverty. So this one is a stunning number. And then I think about how we want to add another 10 million on top of that in the next 10 years. And it's really exciting to me. And while still acknowledging that there are 1 billion people who are still in poverty today. This is a map of where we are working right now. In 2020, we did employ about 840 people in addition to the people that we're supporting in these countries. So we're both working and supporting people in the places in light blue. And if you go home today, one really cool fact to share with another person is Heifer's, I'll call it the hallmark cornerstone of Heifer's work, and it's called passing on the gift. So if a community is given, in this case, a flock of chicks, they make a promise to Heifer ahead of time that they will then, after their flock has multiplied, pass that gift on to someone else. And this is how your impact multiplies. And heifer, let's say a family is given goats. The first female goat then would be given to someone else in the community in addition to the training. And heifer on average can trace 9 generations of that goat, but the longest standing goat family has gone down 22 different generations. And so that's how you see those numbers multiply on the several previous slides through this idea of passing on the gift. And it doesn't always have to be the animals. It's often training or supplies. It might be veterinarian or animal care information too. So those are all important parts of this idea of passing on the gift. This woman here, her name is, I don't want to pronounce it wrong. I'm going to do my best, but it's Manoara. And she's a great example of how heifer is doing work. She and her husband had left their rural lifestyles years ago and they moved to the city, but she's illiterate. And so there were very little options for her in the city. And so her husband was working on a rickshaw. It was not enough money, as you might imagine, to pay for the family's needs. So they moved back to the rural area and were able to connect with Heifer Bangladesh. And while they were there, they, through agriculture and training, were able to double and more their income. And now they have cattle and goats on their own land. And for anyone looking to learn more in-depth stories, such as the one here, I would like to recommend the World Arc. It's online, and it's a lifestyle magazine that you can access, and it's just a daily dose of inspiration for people wanting to learn more about heifer's work. So do look up the World Arc. I really enjoy referencing that myself too, and it's a good read. Some different ways that we or that you folks could get involved in supporting heifer's work. There are a number of free resources available on heifer's website, and I'm happy to connect Mary with them as well. We have resources that you could give to a synagogue or a church. We have a program for kids called, oh my goodness, it's blank. I'm so sorry that it's completely blanking my head, but it's with a goat in a superhero cape. And the idea is that a kid or a child goat can change the world. And so you might know some local communities who could benefit for those things, especially if some kids are at home and not in school and parents are looking for free complimentary information. This would be an easy way to share that with them. We have school resources. We also have online fundraising pages. So traditionally, Heifer has been able to host what we call a living gift market. And that might be another way of saying an alternative gift fair. And some churches and organizations host them around Christmas time or sometimes around in the spring around Easter. And it could be an auction for heifer, but the idea is to inform people about the different ways in which heifer's livestock and training can benefit communities, be it through the money or the muscle or the way honeybees can help to pollinate plants. And so it brings a club together to help inform a community and fundraise at the same time. Because of COVID, we've been able to move that event that people were hosting in person online. And so I could create an online fundraising page for your Rotary Club as well, if that's of interest. We have a marketplace. If you're ever in Little Rock, once it's easier to travel, we have an incredible museum that is absolutely worth your while. It's really interactive, and I recommend it if there's ever a road trip. And we are on social media. If you're looking for videos, blog posts or professional articles, even webinars. These are all different areas in which Heifer's working as well. And then as always, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, especially if you folks have some hard questions for me that I might need to give you a rain check to. I will always email you back with that answer. But for the time, I'll stop my screen, and if anyone has specific questions, it would be my pleasure to help answer them.
Melanie, what countries see the most effort from Heifer?
Oh, I'm going to say it's more of a region of Africa. East Africa Dairy Development Project has been going on for a very long time and has been really successful. And there's several countries in that region where we've really had a hub of activity. I'm going to point you in the, so yes, I will point you in the area of the East Africa. It's been going on since at least 1970. And so the work there has developed pretty substantially, with one of the more recent projects being in Tanzania. And we've also partnered there with the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation. So that was able to improve our work in that region as well. We were maybe starting in 2017, 2018, Heifer helped to link farmers with local schools, because kids were going to school and not having access to any kind of nutrition. And so we were giving kids a daily dose of milk. And so Heifer's trucks from Heifer Farms would deliver the milk. So we were creating a milk culture. Kids were then able to, teachers reported seeing obvious changes in the kids' even skin and ability to pay attention in school because of this access to fresh daily milk.
Melanie, how does Heifer select which countries it works in? And then how does it select which individuals it would work with?
Great question. How does Heifer select what countries, and how does a lot of them we've been working with for a long time, Gary. It also has to, I will go back to wherever it's the poorest of the poor. So Heifer has to figure out who can it build partnerships with and where is there the most need. And then that's where Heifer begins its search. We have, we're not really seeking new places. We've actually kind of tried to shrink which number of countries we're working in so that we can have greater impact in those areas. So places where we've been for a while.
How about then, how do you choose the individuals that you work with?
Also, I think it also just based upon where is the hub or the central Heifer office, and then where in that community are there great needs and access to resources and communication with other members of the public and private sector. So I will point you back, we're really serious about partnerships. And so if we can, we've teamed up with local Peace Corps members, local organizations. And so we're trying to build partnerships and social capital, let's say, in regions where there might be some form of infrastructure where that project can keep going after we leave.
Thank you.
You mentioned partnership with the Gates Foundation. I wonder, where do you derive most of your funding?
It is, I'm going to send you, Chuck, the annual report because I don't want to misquote where the majority is, but I do believe that it's people like you donating funds to the organization. But it is also in conjunction with grants and support from grants in combination with foundation support.
Do you have any government support?
I don't know if we have any current USAID support, and so that's one of the ones I'll give you a rain check with. When I'm pretty sure we have in the past, but because some of our funding from governments kind of shut down because we weren't able to do as many studies during COVID, the same numbers that needed to be reported out. Heifer has incredible transparency, but some of the government funding was shifted when COVID happened. So I don't want to answer the wrong thing for the past year.
Melanie, did I hear you right that Heifer also does work here at home in the United States? And if so, could you tell us a little bit about what regions and what that might look like?
Absolutely. So about 1 hour outside of Little Rock, there is a farm called, or a ranch called Perryvale, it's in Perry, Arkansas, excuse me, it's just on the tip of my tongue. And we work and connect with a couple of main cooperatives, and I'll point you in the direction of Grassroots Cooperative in Arkansas if you want to take a closer look. And we are doing entirely organic grass-fed cattle ranging. We grow a rainbow of veggies and do the same exact work where we would train people in Arkansas who would want to become farmers or learn more about how to regenerate soil to make it healthier for the environment. And then we are selling meat through the South Grassroots Cooperative in Arkansas, which we are so proud. By the end of April, they had tripled their sales from the year previous because of all of the ways meat had been hard to access this time last year. But Grassroots had really safe and careful standards the whole time. And so we've been able to donate thousands of pounds of fresh food to local area food banks in Arkansas this past year as well through our efforts. There are on YouTube, the Heifer Ranch or Heifer USA has a channel, and you can actually see live tours of both the cattle and sometimes the vegetables that are growing. I know that tulips are blooming right now and a lot of lambs are being born at Heifer Ranch. So same thing we would be doing elsewhere.
Thank you.
Melanie, you mentioned environmental programs as well. What's Heifer doing about the concern over methane from cattle, expanding cattle? Are you switching to maybe more of other animals as opposed to beef cattle?
Great question, Roger. I don't know. Okay. I'm writing that down, and I'm going to look into methane and as well. I think the easy answer would be that Heifer is really interested in diversity, and that they really want to see balance on farms. So you can't have, oh, that's okay, Mary. There's going to have to be diversity for any farm to be healthy. And that also includes plants and animals. So let me get back to you, Roger.
Okay, yeah, one of the concerns is in South America, of course, chopping down rainforests and making pastures for grazing cattle to sell the beef to the United States. And I'm sure you're dealing with individual farmers and not large farmers who don't grow to that extent. So
precise,
things
small
like
scale farmers. Yep.
Right, and sheep. And I see you've got some llamas behind you there. Things
Yes,
that are
which are so. Yeah, we love llamas because we also help educating, llama manure is so good for a farm. And so and the shearing of its wool, obviously. So.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Melanie?
Is Heifer doing anything with any of the Native American communities?
We get that question often, and the answer to that is no at the moment. But people do want to see that, and not at the moment. We are, I think, because there's been so much activity in Arkansas, we're still focused there.
Melanie, one of our members, Roger Nicholson, introduced our club to Heifer, and he would have loved to hear your story and your explanation today. He in April 14th, he'll be 94 years old though, and he doesn't really use the computer anymore. He's, he a little slowed down in that area, but he was always a big fan of yours, and he would give our club when we would meet little programs and PowerPoints and things like that, explanations about what heifer does, because it is pretty amazing how you can take one family and make it expand to support other families. That's the beauty of the whole thing, if you ask me. So thanks.
I wrote his name down. I've heard it, and I need to see if someone on my team or I have the pleasure of working with a lot of volunteers, and so some people who are in the Pennsylvania area where there is some agricultural areas might know Roger. So I wrote his name down, and maybe I can send him some fan mail because I appreciate what he's done.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, he'd love that. Yeah. Thanks, Melanie.
Roger was a volunteer area presenter for heifer. He would travel all over the tri-state area putting on programs. And he used to challenge us, even off budget from the club. For multiple years, he challenged us to do a $5,000 arc every year. So he was very beneficial to heifer. Great guy.
Cool. Yeah, he deserves some fan mail. I'm partial to folks who can't get on Zoom, because I understand it's a hard learning curve for some.
Yeah, I have to say, as a contributor, donor, or giving heifer gifts to others, whether it be at the holiday season or other times of the year, it's great to know exactly how you're benefiting and what type of support you might be providing, different type of animal or whatever. It's a lot of fun. Also, in addition to helping out and doing good, it's just neat to know what that impact will be and what it is that you're picking out. So I think it's a great mechanism.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, that's how I became familiar with the organization too. So I've been working for heifer 3.5 years, but I've known about heifer for a really long time, probably through childhood vacation Bible study type things. Heifers in a lot of different communities that way too. And so it's great that you can really connect with the idea that honeybees will what they do. And so it does make an impact.
Okay, any other questions for Melanie? Well, Melanie, on behalf of the club, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. Your presentation was great and really informative, and I think we all learned a lot. So Mary now can no longer say she doesn't really know what heifer is all about. So
Right.
thank her, in the presentation.
Heifer.org. If anything, use it for a daily, read a little bit and learn something new.
Great.
Thank you, folks, so much for the time.
Melanie, do you have an email address or contact
Yes.
information?
I'm going to put it on the screen for a
Okay.
moment. It is my name, Melanie Kapinos at heifer.org. It sounds Greek, but it is Ukrainian.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for being on the call. Melanie, thanks again so much. And everybody enjoy this beautiful day.
Jim,